Were you brought up in an era where children were seen and not heard? Well, today we obviously treat our children with a lot more integrity and respect. Children need to be seen, heard, and understood. Do you have difficulty having your children listen to you, really listen, getting them to change their behaviors, carry out instructions? Do you struggle with feeling like you kind of talking and there's no response? We talk. We want to help children transform their lives, change their behaviors, learn from our experience as parents. If you have this feeling and you feel like you're not being understood, I think join the club. What I've learnt over the years as a doctor and a pediatrician is that children need simplicity. We all need simplicity. It's consistency and simplicity. Even adults need simple instructions. The American election campaign and presidential election, the president's campaign is aimed at a third grade level because all of us need a simple message. We are so programmed to understand very simple survival techniques. We listen to less noise. We listen to the importance. And if an adult needs to be spoken to at a third grade level to understand basic principles, how about a child? Children need simple one-step instructions. Once we go beyond 2-3 steps, you find that they space out, they dream out. An important lesson I learnt over the weekend. There was a little patient of mine that I admitted to hospital because they had a serious infection. But this child has difficulty taking oral medication. In fact, it's almost impossible. So the child was admitted to hospital, and we had to wait until this child was able to take medication orally before they could go home. Now, this was a real big struggle. So in order to try and change the behavior, we had to tie it to an incentive and a payoff. Children cannot be expected to carry out a behavior if there's no consequence, not necessarily negative consequence, a positive consequence, not too far in the future. So what we did with this child is we said, do you want to go home? Well, of course he wants to go home. He wants to see his brothers and sisters at home. He wants to go home, play with his dog. He wants to play with his Lego, watch TV at home. So what we did is we said, look, try just once to take your medicine. Of course, there was a lot of resistance. The nursing staff tried. But what I said is, be simple, stick to one instruction, and give it time to take root. And what we did is we just changed one or two things and allowed this child to think about the instruction, a bit of time to take on board. And you know, within 48 hours, this little child was at home with their family because they had understood that the instruction was simple and that there was a consequence. And this was a real lesson to me in understanding how simple we've got to be with children. So for parents who want to change a behavior, don't try and change too many things. And you know, if a child's got ADHD and a concentration problem, they're going to have even a bigger problem with their poor concentration. And teachers understand this at school as well, is stick to the simplicity, make things very simple. Tie it to a positive consequence, something the child really wants to do. And they can then see the consequence and they can see the payoff. Children are not interested necessarily in getting good grades. Recently reviewing my patients with their schooling related problems, and I often ask children, what were your reports like? What were your marks like? They don't even remember last year. It doesn't mean a lot. What really means is something that's tangible within their time frame. Children have a very narrow time frame. They can't see the future. We need to tie it to the present. So whether a child carries out an instruction, you want to change a behavior, tie it to something they really want within the same day or that week. An adventure that they'll be going out at the weekend to enjoy, or something that evening, whether it's an activity being read to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a negative consequence. And I would really encourage you to think simple and be consistent.